Shona's Reading Program, Literacy Skills for Reading, Part 3. Who is this video for? For anyone. Learners, instructors, administrators, and funders. Anyone is welcome to watch to learn more about how we learn to read and how we teach learners how to read. I'm interested in the intersection of language skills and literacy skills. So if someone is learning English and learning to read for the first time, what do we need to do to help them? Today's video is part 3. Let's quickly review what we've already talked about. In part 1, we talked about how reading is getting meaning from text. And the end goal of this is comprehension, so to understand what the text is saying. Along with comprehension, we have fluency, so reading quickly enough, vocabulary, knowing what the words mean, phonemic awareness, so hearing the sounds, and phonics, which involves connecting the sound and the symbol. And everything I'm talking about today is connected to the Canadian Language Benchmarks, the ESL for All document, and literacy curriculum guidelines. In part 2, I described the literacy skills and knowledge that are needed, and then I demonstrated how and what I teach about the alphabet, uppercase letters, lowercase letters, consonants, vowels, both short and long, and syllables. So today's video is building on the things I've already talked about. So I'm going to both describe and tell some of these things. Digraphs, blending, onset and rhyme, CBC patterns, blends, both at the beginning and ending of words, decoding, and word recognition. The first thing I want to talk about is word recognition and decoding, because they're both important elements for reading. So let's remember, what is reading? Reading is getting meaning from printed text. Now, if we have word recognition, we see the word, we know what it means. So the more we learn, the more that process becomes automatic. But sometimes when we're learning to read, there are words that are unfamiliar to us, so we have maybe not seen the word in writing before. So if a word is new to us, we can decode it, or some people call it sounding it out. So we can apply our knowledge of the sound-symbol relationship. So we look at the letters and think, what sound goes with that letter? And then we say all the sounds in the word, and then maybe we're able to connect that word to a word that we already know in our oral language. So we know how to say it, we just don't know how to read it. In order to decode, we require specific skills and knowledge. So as I mentioned, we need the knowledge of the sound-symbol relationship. So what sound goes with which letter? Now, teachers of children, K to 12, often follow established scope and sequence. So they have lists of what do you teach when. So there is a logical order for teaching these things. Now, adult learners could use things that are made for children, but my experience has been that they don't like things made for babies, they tell me. So they prefer to use images and do activities that are made for adults that connect to their real world. So that's why I've created Shona's Reading Program, which is the start of teaching decoding skills in a systematic and comprehensive and explicit way. So what I'd like to show you now is how we can do word deconstruction and construction, and that's part of developing those decoding skills. So take words apart, put parts of words back together, and then play with the different parts of the word. So let me show you what that looks like. What is this? It says woof woof. What is the name? Do you know? This is a dog. Dog. When we say the word dog, how many beats do we hear? Dog. Dog. I hear one beat. So one beat means the word has one part. Let's slow the word down. Dog. How many different sounds do you hear? Listen again. Dog. I hear 3 sounds. What's the first sound? Dog. D. What's the last sound? Dog. G. What's the middle sound? dog. The middle sound is ah. So d, a, g. We can hear the sounds d, a, g. Now let's find out what letters go with these sounds. We've practiced this, so we can match d, d, a, o, g, g. So then when we write the word, D-O-G, because we've matched the sound to the letters. We can go on to do so many things. We can do substitution, where we change a letter. So dog, change the O becomes dig. Change the D to a B becomes big. We can take away sounds. So bat, take away the B, what are we left with? At. This is called deletion. We can put sounds together. So s, a, n. We can blend it together. So sun, sun. Now I know people complain that English is hard because sometimes one sound is spelled a few different ways, but there are often patterns. So there are a few consonants that often go together to make one sound. So CK often makes the sound k, as in duck. And here's a list of some other digraphs that you may recognize. Digraphs are also made from vowels. Some people call these vowel teams. So a vowel that is spelt with 2 or more letters. So here my example is A. So the long A as in 8. And here's a list of some other vowel digraphs that you may recognize. We can also look at onset and rhyme. So onset is the first sound in the word. In cap, cat, and cab, the onset is k. And then the rhyme is the string of letters that follow that first sound. These 3-letter words are examples of CVC words, meaning consonant, vowel, consonant. And CVC words are great for learning to read. They often follow typical patterns, so they have very similar rhymes. And the great thing is, once you learn these patterns, it makes it easier to recognize new words because you know the ending. Blends are a little different than digraphs. So in a digraph, 2 letters go together to make one sound. But in a blend, we still hear the individual sounds, but they often go together. So at the beginning of words, we often have these blends. And then at the end of the words, we have these other blends. And again, if we learn the patterns, it just makes it easier to read and spell. For example, have you ever played Wordle? So you need to guess the 5-letter word in 6 guesses to win. And if the letter is green, it means it's the correct letter, correct position. If it's yellow, it's the correct letter, but it's in the wrong spot. And then gray is the letters not in the word. So it's helpful if you know which letters are likely to go together, which are often show up at the beginning of a word or an end of word. The last thing I want to talk about is names for different kinds of words. So you might hear decodable words. Well, what is that? So a decodable word is one that can be sounded out because the letter-sound relationship is something that your students have learned, so that they can decode it based on their knowledge. So sight words are words that do not follow phonetic patterns, and often they're taught explicitly so that students can recognize them quickly. Some reading programs use the term irregular words for words that do not follow phonetic patterns. And then finally, we have high-frequency words. So these are the words that are most commonly found in the written language, and so are often taught first to students whether they are decodable or not. Let's wrap up. Today we talked about how learning to read has 2 components, word recognition and decoding. Some of the decoding skills include segmenting, blending, deleting, substituting, and learning the patterns that we see frequently like digraphs, blends, and onset rhyme. So I hope this has been useful in understanding how we learn to read and how we can teach learners to read. I firmly believe that literacy skills need to be developed every day along with language skills. So that's why I've created this free reading program that you're welcome to check out on YouTube. We will see you next time. If you want to contact me, leave me a comment in YouTube or send me an email, mycanadianenglish@gmail.com. All the videos I make are also available for free on my website. If you haven't done so yet, subscribe in YouTube. It makes me happy.